I'm stuck in a reading slump. What can I do to find something to get me out of that slump? Okay, so here's the deal. When it comes to reading slumps, there are a couple things you have to keep in mind. Number one, you don't have to be reading 24/7. You can take a break. If you feel stressed, if you feel unconnected, if it's not something you want to do right now, take a break. We do not have to adhere to whatever crazy theories we've got going around BookTok or BookTube or Bookstagram or wherever that suggest we have to constantly be reading or we're not a good reader. That's not true. If you need a break, take a break, and that's okay. You do not need to pressure yourself, because if you try to force yourself to read while you're in a reading slump, when you're not connecting with things, you could read a book that you would otherwise absolutely love. It could be your favorite book of all time, but because you're in a personal state of not being able to connect, you might not connect with a book that could be your absolute favorite. So when you push it, when you try to pressure it into working for you, it can fail you. That can backfire. So first and foremost, if you're in a reading slump, that's okay. Take a break. You don't have to read all the time. You don't have to force this. Now, one thing I do recommend is your mind is craving that creativity. You want that storytelling. You want to connect with something, and you're just not connecting with this in this format at this time. So find something else that you might be able to connect with. Maybe it's a TV show. Maybe you're going to binge watch a Netflix show. Maybe you're going to go on a photo retreat and you're just going to go like for a photo walk with your phone and you're just going to take pretty pictures. Maybe you're going to set up a photo shoot for yourself. Maybe you'll take a pottery class. Do something creative that engages your mind and maybe tells a story to you. So we want to be listening to podcasts, or we want to be creative in some kind of way. Maybe you want to take a cooking class, or you want to just go to your kitchen and cook. Do some creative things. Give yourself a little bit of time. Maybe it's a day, maybe it's a week, maybe it's longer than a week. That's fine. But do creative things to engage your mind, because your mind's still going to be craving that, just in a different format. Now, once you are at that point where you feel like you can get back into reading, go slow. Don't just jump right in, because you don't want to burn yourself out quickly because you weren't ready when you thought you were. So start with something small. I highly recommend mixing up how you're reading. So if you've been reading novels and series and big books, try something little. Try a novella, try a novelette, try short stories, try something that is easy for you to consume in a quick manner. And if it connects, absolutely awesome. And if it doesn't connect, that's okay. Give yourself another minute. With that in mind, you want to be varying what you're reading and how you're reading it, because reading slumps tend to come from falling into the same thing over and over. It's routines, that consistency in it. So mix things up. Try reading different genres. Try reading different tropes. Try reading different sizes of books. Again, we want this that you can have the series, you can have the novels, you can have the novelettes, you can have the novellas. Go for different things and try mixing them up. Try stepping outside of your usual realm. Now, if you are, again, in a reading slump and you're not connecting with things, you want to make sure that you're not going to burn yourself out on something you really do like. So try other things. And then if you don't like it, that's fine. But now you've tried. So if you love reading fantasy, maybe try reading a contemporary. If it's not your favorite, but it's okay, that might be a good way to ease back into it, to see how you're doing. It's a way to take your temperature on this one and gauge if it's going to be a good fit for you to continue to read or to try something else creative. But again, we're going back to the point of you do not have to fall into this trap of every single time you are doing these things, and it has to be reading all the time, or I'm not a good reader, or I have to read all these books or I'm not a good reader, or if I have to finish my TBR or I'm not a good reader. Those are just fallacies that we are fed on social media, and you don't need to listen to that. You need to do what's right for you. So read fast or read slow, take a break or dive in deep. You can do all these things on your own timeline. And if you feel like it's been a really long time where you haven't connected with stories, I'm talking like literal months, then maybe it's time to try something else. Maybe you've grown out of that stage of reading for a while, and that's okay. Step away from that genre, step away from that trope. Maybe you don't need to be reading contemporary anymore, or maybe you don't need to be reading YA, or maybe you don't need to be reading mysteries, or maybe you don't need to be reading horror, or whatever. It's your body, your brain, your mind, your spirit telling you, I need something different. Similar, but different. So try new things. Don't try to force your way into something that's not going to work for you. It goes back to that not putting that square in the round hole, or the round thing in the square hole, whatever it is, because it's just not going to work. We don't want to force these things. We want to make it easy for you to do this. So try mixing things up, try doing other creative things, and take a freaking break. And stop listening to what BookTok, BookTube, Bookstagram is telling you. You don't need to be listening to that nonsense that makes you feel like you have to do things a certain way. This is reading. It should be fun. If it's not fun, you're doing it wrong.